Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever wondered what exactly goes on in your brain when you're deciding whether to buy just one more item, or if it's finally time to just walk away? Well, today, we're treating economics like an absolute master class to help you find the consumer sweet spot. We're going to unpack the precise, step-by-step math behind why a rational buyer finally decides to close their wallet. We'll be using a classic economic concept called the Cardinal utility approach, and honestly, understanding this can completely change how you view your very own spending habits.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll establish the core assumptions, reveal the golden equilibrium rule, apply it all to a real-world shirt market, and finally, visualize that perfect sweet spot on a graph. Let's dive right in.
Starting with Section 1, the core assumptions. Setting the ground rules for the rational buyer. Because, we simply can't model human behavior without locking in a few boundaries first.
Okay, we built our entire foundation on the law of diminishing marginal utility, or DMU for short. In simple terms, this means the more you consume of a product, the less satisfaction each additional unit actually gives you. Think about grabbing a slice of your absolute favorite pizza when you're absolutely starving. That first slice, immense satisfaction. But by the time you're on your fourth or fifth slice, well, not nearly as much, right? That dropping level of satisfaction, that is diminishing marginal utility in action.
Now, to find our mathematical equilibrium, we've got to lock in a few constants. First, we assume our consumer is a completely rational buyer who's just trying to maximize their happiness. Second, their income, we assume it's totally fixed. Third, outside prices do not change. And lastly, and this is absolutely crucial, we assume that utility or satisfaction can actually be measured in terms of money.
And that brings us to a really important conversion. 1 util equals 1 rupee. We are literally anchoring abstract psychological satisfaction directly to cold, hard cash. By doing this, the utility of a fixed amount of currency, like a 10 rupee note, remains perfectly constant. Turning feelings into currency like this allows us to compare apples to apples when we start looking at price tags.
Moving on to Section 2, the equilibrium rule, revealing the golden formula. With our assumptions locked in, let's see how this all builds into the central rule of our masterclass.
Here it is, the golden formula, MUX equals PX. What this means is a consumer reaches perfect equilibrium exactly when their marginal utility, that's MUX, perfectly matches the price, PX. Think about it. As long as the satisfaction you get from an item is higher than the money you're giving up to buy it, you're logically going to keep buying. But you hit your maximum total satisfaction the exact moment that utility dips to exactly match the price tag.
All right, Section 3, the shirt market analysis. Putting the formula to the test. Pure theory is great and all, but let's take this math to the mall and see how it actually works in retail.
Imagine you're out buying shirts, and the prevailing market price is locked completely flat at 600 rupees. It doesn't change whether you buy 1 shirt or 5. Now, track your marginal utility. For that very first shirt, your satisfaction is sky high at 700 rupees worth of utility. For the second one, it drops a bit to 650. By the third, it hits exactly 600. And if you keep going, pushing to a fourth or fifth shirt, your satisfaction steadily plunges to 500 and then way down to 350. We are seeing the law of diminishing marginal utility happening in real time.
Let's break those numbers down a little more because we have a bit of a Goldilocks effect happening. On the left side, we have your intramarginal units. Those are the first 2 shirts. These are a total bargain because your satisfaction actively beats the 600 rupee cost, so naturally, you buy them without hesitation. But on the right, those are extra marginal units. Now it's a bad deal. The 600 rupee cost actively outweighs your dropping satisfaction, so the rational consumer firmly stops buying.
Which leads us nicely into Section 4, visualizing the sweet spot, the graphical proof of equilibrium. We've seen the raw data, but to truly lock this concept into your mind, let's take a look at the visual proof.
Pay close attention to point E here. You see that downward sloping curve? That represents our dropping satisfaction, and it perfectly intersects the flat, horizontal 600 rupee price line. If you follow point E straight down to the bottom axis, it lands exactly on the third shirt. This right here is the consumer's equilibrium. It visually proves the exact, precise moment the rational buyer decides they've had enough, perfectly matching utility to price.
So, as we wrap up, I really challenge you to look at your own shopping habits. Do you actually stop at that perfect equilibrium, or do you let sales and marketing push you into extra marginal territory where the cost quietly outweighs the benefit? Next time you reach for your wallet, just ask yourself, have I found my point E? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.